to hear about the Sunset Strip? Go to my website, jizzypearl.net, all you new subscribers, and check it out. I've written a bunch of books and they totally rock. Get them at jizzypearl.net. All right, Art of Singing, Part 2. Remember, we talked about in our last episode how singing is hard, but the trick is making it look easy. And we saw how that's true. That being a professional singer means you have to have both a physical and a mental skill set in order to make it happen, and more importantly, to keep it going. When I wrote this, it was June 11th, and I was sitting in a hotel room in Big Flats, New York, getting ready to open up for Queensryche at TAG Summer Stage. So let's pretend that I'm still in Big Flats, and how am I going to go about a typical day? First thing, you get your coffee, get your breakfast. Second thing, you go online. You have to check in for your next flight, which is tomorrow. And a lot of the airlines now are getting wonky. They're canceling a lot of flights. Ask any traveling musician, they're going to tell you that it's pretty crazy now. You know what I mean? Our first flight got canceled, so now they booked us on another flight, and instead of me boarding at 7 p.m., now I board at 7 a.m., which means that my lobby call is now 3 a.m. in the morning. So how does this pertain to the art of singing? Well, it shows that you have to be ready. You have to be ready for all the eventualities. Missed flight, canceled flight, running from terminal to terminal, jumping in a van and driving 2 hours to Big Flats with no dinner or no sound check. Throw your gig clothes on, jump up on stage, and be ready to rock. The audience doesn't know any of this. They don't know about all the nightmare that it took to get there. They just, pay their good, hard-earned money, and they want a gig. So you got to jump on stage, and you can't bitch about it. You got to jump on stage just like fresh as a daisy and give them a rad show. And that's the showbiz part of it. To recap, in the previous episode, I showed you some of the rudimentary techniques of singing with your diaphragm and not pushing air, which makes your voice more efficient, more effective, and you're less likely to lose your voice. We talked about how you should have a strong stomach, basically a strong structure, visualizing your diaphragm as a speaker, and then when you sing, you pull in and the voice comes out your throat without pushing air. But as we get older and we work these muscles harder for years and years and years, there's always a chance of injury. And by injury, I'm mostly thinking about hernias. Singers do get hernias. They strain their muscles, especially when they're hitting those high notes all the time. And there's always a chance that you're going to get a hernia. So what I do is I do a lot of stretching before shows. And you want to stretch the groin muscles on the side, and you want to stretch all these muscles. Basically, these are the ones that are more apt to pop. Singing is a physical thing. Being a front man is a physical thing. I've always said that. No one wants to see a front man stand there like a potted plant. Look at the Chili Peppers. Look at Mick Jagger. You don't think that those guys stretch out before gigs? Of course they do. And I'm not going to go into the actual physical exercises I do before a gig, but I told you that I'm a runner, so basically the same stretching that I do before a run is pretty much the same thing I do before a gig. Okay, consonants, those damn consonants. As a singer, you want to learn not to overpronounce certain consonants, certain hard consonants like C's, K's, T's, or especially the P's. The P's are the worst. That's why when you record in a studio, they put that net screen in front of the microphone. That's so you don't pop your P's, because if you pop your P's, you can ruin a take. So that's why those screens are there. So what you want to do is you want to not overpronounce that. Like, for example, in Mob Rules, close the city and tell the people. Tell the people. You don't want to tell the people. It's almost like I inhale the P a little bit. It's almost like I eat it. Tell the people that something's not coming to call. Coming to call, coming to call. See how I just touch on the hard consonant. You can hear what I'm saying. It's legible, but it's smoother, and I don't push that air. All right, this one seems pretty obvious, but as we know, a lot of singers are loudmouths on and off stage, and if you're going to be monologuing your band all day before a gig, you might end up blowing your voice out when it's time for the gig. Or for example, if you have to do interviews all day long before a gig, you're yakking, and then when it's gig time, you've kind of blown your voice out, because when you talk all the time, of course, you're pushing air. Don't talk all the time. Save your voice. Save it for the gig. Some singers have the gift of gab. David Lee Roth, he knows exactly what he's going to say between songs. He's witty, he can talk off the cuff, he can be spontaneous. That's great. But what if you're not that guy? What if you find it hard to fill the spaces between songs? You don't have that gift of gab. Some people need to have their raps written between songs. Some people have to have them rehearsed like a script. So basically, they're reading a script between songs, and you don't know that. You're just the audience. For example, when I saw Cheap Trick 2 nights in a row, I was watching him in Long Beach, and between one particular song, Robin Zander went, "Oh, sure sounds like Long Beach." And then the next night I saw him in San Diego, and he did the same thing. "Sure sounds like San Diego." Okay, so he's Robin Zander. I'm going to cut him some slack on that one. But what if shit goes wrong? What are you going to do when shit goes wrong? For example, you're playing a gig, everything's going great, and all of a sudden an amp blows up out of nowhere. Or the drummer's hitting his drums and he cracks the snare head and it splits. What do? Everyone's looking at you, and you turn around because the music stops, and the drummer looks at you. He's furiously trying to get his shit together, and he goes, "I need a minute." A minute? A minute? A minute is an eternity during a live gig. A minute can seem like an hour. So what do?
Hey, say something. Dude, say something.
What about this weather we're having?
That is why you fail.
Eee. And it does happen. It's happened to me before. It does happen. So what do? The gig has effectively ceased to exist, and everyone is looking at you to fix it. So what I suggest is that every singer has in his back pocket a little 30-second rap. It doesn't have to be Shakespeare, it doesn't have to be something profound. It just has to be something that is going to be able to bridge the gap that this broken snare head or this broken kick drum has effectively given you. It's called Look Over Here and Don't Look Over Here. You're doing your little tap dance, you have your little 30-second rap, and believe me, most of these problems on stage are solved in less than 20 seconds. The harshest thing in the world is being on stage and having that awkward silence. It's like a gigantic chasm is opening up. But if you have that rap in your back pocket, you may not ever need it, but if you do need it, it's going to be there. I touched on this before, but I will touch on it again. Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick. Don't be a dick on stage. Don't talk down to your audience. Respect the medium, and don't be a dick off stage. That's really important. Don't be a up off stage. It's funny when you're in your 20s, oh, he's out of control, he's a madman. But that was before the internet and YouTube. I'm thinking of a certain Sweden rock band. Those videos are going to be up forever and ever and ever. And so, don't be that guy. Now, I won't mention names, but there are guys that have to be babysat in their 50s while they're out on tour. They have to be babysat. They have to be physically watched and followed around so they don't go to the bar at 8 a.m. and start drinking all day and fuck up everyone's gig. And you believe it? It's fucking sad. Sometimes band guys get so fucked up the night before that they don't wake up. And when it's time to go to lobby call, you can't wake them up. You're banging on the hotel door, you're calling on their cell phone, and they're passed out. Or you get these guys that think they're rock stars, and there's a 7 a.m. lobby call to go to the airport, and they stroll in at around 7:30, leaving the other band guys in the van sitting there like chumps. It's just not cool, man. So what you do, you got to oil spot them. Literally, the van will just leave you at the hotel and drive to the airport, and you're fucked. It's not cool to be a fuck up. It's not cool to be Keith Moon in 2022. It just isn't. It just takes some responsibility. You're totally lucky and you're totally privileged to be doing what you're doing. Being out on the road, playing music every night, and getting paid for it. You know, there are hundreds of unemployed musicians that would gratefully put up with the canceled flights, the bad food. They would gratefully love to be in your place. So don't fuck with the rock gods. Don't offend the rock gods, or sooner or later, one day, you will be struck down. Okay, this isn't particularly about singing, but sooner or later, musicians are going to have to deal with this shit. Now, how can you tell if an agent is a good agent or a bad agent? You can't. You can't. Booking agents, the bad ones, are like used car salesmen. They'll massage your ego and they'll tell you what you want to hear, even if it's not true. Now, I've said this before in earlier episodes, that there is no specialized roadmap for musicians, that you have to learn sometimes by failure and hardship. And getting f***ed over by a bad agent definitely falls under that category. Booking agents take 10% of your fee. That's what they get. If your band makes $10,000 a gig, the agent's going to take $1,000, 10%. Now that's a lot of money. 10% is a lot of money. What does an agent do to earn that? Basically, they book the gig for you, they make sure all the parts of the contract are adhered to, and mostly they make sure that you get paid. You got to get paid. That's the biggest thing. Now, the difference between a good agent and a bad agent is that a bad agent won't have your back. A bad agent won't fight for you when you show up to a place and the venue says that they want to give you a reduction, which is basically saying they want to pay you less than the agreed contract. You know, you guys didn't sell enough tickets, so we're getting f***ed over, so you guys got to make $2,000 less. Now, a good agent will get on the phone and he'll fight for you, but a bad agent will just not take your call. What do? Well, if you don't take the reduction, then the venue will just cancel you altogether and you won't make any money, and you'll have to pay for your own hotels that night. It's a pickle. Or a bad agent will just lie to you. They're liars. They'll tell you that certain things are covered in the contract and they're not, or they'll tell you that the promoter is going to do something for you and he doesn't know what you're talking about. Like, you show up and there's no gear, or you show up and you don't have dinner, or you show up and instead of 4 hotels, you only get 2 hotels. Bad agents are liars, and they just lie all the fucking time. So what do? Basically, you just don't work with that person again. If you have a promoter that's fucking you over, or if you have a bad agent, the only thing you can do as a musician is to choose not to work with them again. You know, fool me once, shame on me type shit like that. That's all you can do, and you don't work with them again. And then you start to hear through the grapevine that there's certain promoters, certain agents that routinely f*** their bands over, and you just don't work with them again. You know, lesson learned. As far as agents and promoters and venues, if something sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. Just remember that. Sullivan Big Time Entertainment, good agent. Bad agent. John Domagal, good agent. Bad agent. Now let's get back to singing. Now, every singer has his or her own particular method of warming up before a gig. Everyone's different. Everyone has their own thing. I've learned over the years, as far as warming up goes, that less is more. The less I warm up during the day, the more gas I have in my tank for singing that night. Now, I warm up gradually during the day. If I have a gig, say, that goes on at 9 p.m., I kind of can schedule my warm-ups during that day. Say at noon, I'll just take a short walk and I'll warm up with maybe half a song. Sometimes it's Come Together by the Beatles, something easy for me to sing. You want to start off warming up with something easy. You don't need to launch right into King Diamond right at the beginning. So you warm up during the day, maybe a half a song, little bit, and then maybe an hour or two goes by and you warm up with something a little bit harder, say Tumbleweed by my band Love Hate. Something a little bit more challenging by doing a little bit of singing, maybe every hour, every 2 hours, just a little, just 30 seconds, less than a minute. You're opening up your throat. And I suggest that people walk. Walking is a really good way to energize your body during the day, and it opens up your throat. Don't sit on the couch or don't sit in your hotel room all day watching TV, because singing is a physical thing, remember, and your body is doing something physical, so you want to get ready for it like it's an athletic event. So now it's time to go to sound check. Your voice over the course of a few hours has been slowly opening up, so by the time that you get to sound check, your voice is fairly open. And don't blow your voice out at sound check. It's just sound check. You don't have to perform yet. So when you get to sound check, you're checking your mic, you're checking your in-ears, which I told everyone to get. Basically, everything is set, so don't blow your voice out at sound check. You still have hours to go. Just chill out. Now, I also suggest that singers don't eat before the gig. I don't know how people do this, but I generally don't eat 6 hours before a show because of my stomach and my diaphragm. It causes the burping, and you don't want a full stomach because you're just going to start burping, and it's not happening. So basically, if I have a gig at 9 o'clock, then I'll probably eat around 3 p.m., a full meal, and that gives it time to digest and get out of my stomach, so my stomach is nice and tight by gig time. So you show up about an hour before the gig, and you're walking around, you're backstage, you're doing your thing. It's very close to gig time. You got your in-ears in, so you can hear yourself. You're warmed up, you've stretched, so your body is limber, and you're ready to rock. And you jump up on stage, and boom, you're in it. Okay, that's it. Until I think of some more shit. I hope some of this helped. A couple of more weapons in your arsenal. The things I'm talking about are killer, whether or not you're a weekend warrior playing the bar or you're playing in front of 10,000 people. It's the same principle, man. You take your singing seriously. It's fun, and it's music, and music should always be fun, but you got to take the mechanics of it seriously, especially when you get older, man. It's just what you got to do. You don't want to be on stage and someone's holding up a phone recording you, and whatever you do on stage is going to be stinking it up on YouTube for eternity. You don't want to be that guy. You want to have your shit together. That's all I'm saying. So it's your old pal Jizzo, rocking and rolling, and we'll see you next time.